Yeah, the first Trump administration and the second Trump administration got off to very different starts. The first Trump administration was marked by more chaos with regard to personnel choices. The president stripped Governor Christie of control over the transition team right about election time. And so the president then had to reestablish his transition team, and it took longer to staff things up. This time around, the transition was very organized. They were ready to move very quickly on both cabinet and sub-cabinet officials. But more importantly, there was a massive list of executive orders that the administration was ready to put in place from day one, and a clear strategy across the board that the administration decided to implement. The first Trump term was a coalition government between conservatives, the establishment, and populists. The populists were the smallest proportion of that government. It was Peter Navarro, Robert Lighthizer, and the president. The second term is not really a coalition government. It's a government that's dominated by populists who had 4 years in government and 4 years out of government to develop policies more in line with the president's vision. The conservatives in the government are much more aligned to the president's vision. These are not the conservatives of the first term, people like Nikki Haley, Mike Pompeo, Mike Pence, all of whom have been excluded from this government. And so there's a clear agenda, one that's been developed, and that the president is putting into place. President Trump has had very strong views on trade that date back to the early 1980s, where he has for a long time felt that America's trading partners and our adversaries have taken advantage of us, that we've established a liberal trading order, and that countries around the world have taken advantage of this order in order to become prosperous while deindustrializing the United States. China, of course, is the major threat to the American economy. The president understands that as a strategic threat. That's different from trying to rebalance trade with Japan, different than trying to rebalance trade with Taiwan, different than trying to rebalance trade with Europe. And here, what the tariff policy is designed to do is a few things. One, the president does want to see a reindustrialization of the United States. And to the extent that there's this 10% universal tariff that's going on all countries across the board, the hope is that some of this 10% universal tariff will encourage companies to move manufacturing into the United States rather than having it abroad. As for the negotiations, I think the president and his team have been very clear. They are out to have a series of negotiations with 70 or so countries to try to get them to lower tariff barriers, to get them to lower non-tariff barriers, which in certain cases are more important than tariff barriers. They're trying to increase investment in the United States and increase cooperation with our trading partners. And this, I think, is a great opportunity for countries that are willing to be bold, willing to take advantage of this opportunity to go out and make a concrete offer to the United States. These deals can get wrapped up very quickly. I don't think the president wants long-term turbulence in the markets. He doesn't want a global recession. What he wants is fairer trading with the United States and more investment in the United States. And here I think Taiwan in particular has an awful lot to bring to the table. First, you already have the $100 billion investment from TSMC on the table. I'm sure there are other companies that will be willing to invest in the United States. There are an awful lot of non-trade barriers that Taiwan can remove. There's some tariff barriers with regard to agricultural products, meat and the like, that could also come off. But Taiwan has an awful lot to bring to the United States. You have extraordinary knowledge of semiconductor manufacturing and extraordinary knowledge of the technologies needed for artificial intelligence and national security that you really could bring to the United States and work in partnership with us. So the quicker Taiwan moves to come up with a bold, realistic package of what it can do for the U.S., the better we'll all be. And part of that also is Taiwan stepping up more on its own defense. This is already occurring. You've extended the time for military service to a full year, and you're increasing your defense expenditures. But I think moving even further down the line will be better for Taiwan and better for the United States. Well, I think that is a start to a really bold package, but there's more that Taiwan can do. As Dr. Wu of ASC suggested in our panel today, Taiwan has extraordinary capacities to help the United States develop AI. And that winning the AI race is critical to the United States. It's critical to President Trump. It's one of the reasons why President Trump set up the Energy Dominance Council, because he understands that American natural gas, that small modular reactors, next generation nuclear is going to be critical to fuel AI centers because of the massive power needs for AI, for data centers. And this is an area Taiwan can really help the United States. We can do these things together. And I think coming in and sort of shaping a strategy by saying we're taking our tariffs off, we're removing the non-tariff barriers, we're going to go beyond the $100 billion from TSMC. We're going to really move forward on that non-binding letter of intent to buy U.S. natural gas from Alaska, which is critical to building the Alaska natural gas pipeline that President Trump wants so badly. That will bring American natural gas to the Indo-Pacific much more quickly than it currently has to go through the Atlantic and all the way through the Straits of Malacca. All these things are important, but cooperating on the critical AI sector, that will be music to the ears of the U.S. government. So I think thinking of a way to package this as creatively as possible, as a win-win for both countries, as a recognition that Taiwan needs to do more for the United States across the board, but that we can do more together. And of course, increasing defense expenditures even further would be deeply appreciated. I don't think it will, because I don't think countries are going to be so stupid as to want to bound themselves up with China's predatory economic practices, with China's intellectual property theft, with investments that come as a disservice to the nations that take them. So I think at the end of the day, Xi Jinping was able to play a little bit of public diplomacy based on the poor understanding of the mainstream media of what President Trump was trying to achieve. But at the end of the day, once the deals start flowing, and I think we're going to have an India deal pretty shortly, and I think we'll move relatively quickly on a Korea deal, and eventually on a Japan deal, and hopefully on a Taiwan deal. I think that the view in the Indo-Pacific outlook will be very different than it currently is. It's a fool's errand to go deeply engage with China at this point, given what we saw during COVID, what we've seen through Belt and Road. And so if you think you're getting a better deal from China, that's simply not possible. The president wants a negotiation, wants a fair negotiation. We're listening, we're willing to make deals. And I think that there's no way in hell that China is going to engage with South Korea and Japan. Both countries have denied that they're engaging with China on these issues. There's certainly a desire to maintain relations with China at this point, and to maintain lines of communication so there's no misunderstanding. But at the end of the day, both China and at least the acting South Korean government understand the strategic challenges that China poses. Look, I wouldn't put a new Cold War as impossible. I didn't think that was the case during the first Trump administration, but we've now seen COVID as well as predatory economic trade practices by China. So that being said, we are not going to ask countries to completely disengage from any economic activities with China. What we will do, however, is to remind people that the West offers trusted technologies that aren't trying to harvest your data for nefarious purposes, as Huawei does, as Chinese AI undoubtedly will do, as Chinese autonomous vehicles undoubtedly will do. We've now seen just yesterday, the British government, the Ministry of Defense announced that that ministry officials should not plug their cell phones to be charged in Chinese EVs, that they shouldn't have conversations in Chinese EVs, since there's a sense that these vehicles are being used to spy on the people who use them, and the data is being downloaded. And I think that what the United States is simply asking for is for fair trade, period, not to steal your data, steal your information, take over your government's operating system, as the Chinese have done in Africa and elsewhere with their so-called gifts of technology and gifts of trade. Taiwan can't play the middle ground game. That time is over. That ship has sailed. You can't depend on China for your economic health and the United States for your security, because something's going to have to give way. We saw Secretary Hegseth's successful visit to Japan and the Philippines about a month ago, in which he spoke openly of the China challenge, spoke openly about the need to defend Taiwan, spoke openly about the need for both Japan and the Philippines as frontline states against China to remain strong. And I think that we will see a very clear Indo-Pacific strategy coming out of the Pentagon, one that will bolster our alliances, bolster our defense spending, our military presence, our forward force posture projection in the Indo-Pacific in order to defend our allies and partners, and in order to deter Taiwan, in order to deter China, which is first and foremost the critical thing we can do. We're not seeking military action against China, but we need to be present and visible to deter China from attacking our allies. And we need our allies to do all they can to take part in that deterrence. I think it's important for President Lai to speak directly to the Taiwanese people, to have his cabinet make strong statements in this matter, and I think that the Taiwanese people will understand at the end of the day that this is a moment to redress, as far as is possible, trade with the United States, that this is a moment with immense potential for securing Taiwan's economic security, economic future, and her security as well. And so it's a moment that requires creativity, boldness, and that an approach that seeks to split things down the middle will in the long term hurt Taiwan. By not engaging with the United States, by not spending more on defense, by not transforming your strategic culture here in Taiwan, by assuming that you can split the difference, Taiwan's going to be weakened over the long term. And so a strong Taiwan, a Taiwan that is proud of the extraordinary things that Taiwan has achieved as a democracy, as a technology superpower. Those things require greater distance from Beijing, and it's essential that President Lai make the case for a new trade policy with the United States, make the case for Taiwan as this technology superpower that has capacities that China itself doesn't have. And by reminding the Taiwanese people of this, I think he can go a long way to going above the heads of the parliament, the KMT, to try to move his agenda forward.